Hey y'all, this is going to be the second part of our government intervention video. In this video, we're going to be looking at excise taxes and tax incidences. Why can't a bike stand up on its own? Because it's too tired. All right, so this is going to be in part 2 of the effects of government intervention of Google Slides, as you guys know from the intro. In specificity, we're going to be talking about excise taxes today. So what an excise tax is it's just a per unit tax on producers. In layman's terms, it's a tax on producers. And so here, the reason why we have excise taxes, or the reason why the government gets involved in the market and places a tax on producers, is they're trying to de-incentivize producers from producing this particular good. So think of goods like alcohol and cigarettes, right? Especially with cigarettes. There is a sin tax or an excise tax placed on the production of cigarettes because the government realizes that smoking is bad for the overall health of an individual and for society. They're going to artificially, right, make the good more expensive by placing a tax on producers here. And so this phrase, per unit tax, that means for every single unit of the good made, the producer has to pay money to the government or has to pay the tax here. Okay, so it's not just a lump sort of goods. If let's say a cigarette company produces 50 packs of cigarettes, the company is not paying a one-time tax on all 50. Instead, for each one of those 50 cartons of cigarettes, they're getting taxed 50 times. And so the goal of an excise tax is to force producers to make less of the good because the government deems this specific good to be dangerous or unwanted in society. And so what does this actually look like? Well, here we just have our normal supply and demand curve, right? Our equilibrium quantity where supply meets demand is going to be 100 units. Our equilibrium price is going to be at $3. And here's our supply schedule sort of on the left-hand side here. And so here, let's say that the government sets a $2 per unit tax or a $2 excise tax on the production of cigarettes because they say cigarettes is bad for you. And because of that, we're going to make it more expensive. Well, what's going to happen? Well, here, our supply curve is going to shift to the left, right? We automatically know that because anytime there's an implementation of a tax, our supply curve shifts to the left. But the question should be, well, how much or how high or how much to the left is our supply curve going to shift? Well, here, it's going to shift $2 because our tax, as this sample or hypothetical sort of scenario said, there is a $2 excise or a $2 per unit tax on the production of cigarettes here. So that means from the original point, right? From the original supply curve, right? Every single point, which I'm drawing in red, right, is going to move up or really shift to the left by $2, right? So here, so it's from $2 it goes up to 4, from 3 it goes up to 5, from 4 it goes up to 6, and from 5 it goes up to 7, right? So our supply curve really shifted to the left here, right? It looks like it's shifting up, but the correct terminology or correct phrasing should be it shifts to the left. And so if you notice, right, the difference between these 2 points, and we'll do this in different colors here, right, is just $2. And that's why in the gray box right here, it says the tax is the vertical distance between the supply curves. If there's a $2 excise tax, then the entire curve is going to shift by leftward by $2. And so here, right, we also know that there is a new equilibrium, right? The equilibrium is no longer at $3 and 100. But instead, we have a brand new supply curve, right, which I'm going to highlight right now. We have a brand new supply curve. So where that intersects with the old demand curve is our new equilibrium price and quantity. So our equilibrium price and quantity now is at 80 units and at $4. Right? And so here, let's go over some questions here. And so hopefully you guys understand, right, why our supply curve should to the left and why our new supply curve, or excise tax supply curve, is just $2 above everything because there's a $2 per unit tax. And then here, yet again, I hope you guys understand why our new equilibrium is at $4 and at 80 units, right? Because that's where the new supply curve intersects with the original demand curve here. And so let's identify the following here, right? So just pause for a minute. If you guys want to do this by yourself, just pause and we'll go over the correct answers. If not, we'll just go ahead right through it. So the price before the tax. In other words, how much are consumers paying for this carton of cigarettes before the $2 tax was implemented? Well, this question's pretty simple because all we would need to do is go to where this original demand curve, or where the original equilibrium price was, where the original supply met the original demand. And that's at $3. Yes, I understand, right, that we said that there was a $2 tax, right? And if the new equilibrium is $4, that doesn't mean, right, that the original price was $2, right? Because we know the equilibrium where supply meets demand represents the equilibrium price consumers are paying. And also it represents the price that producers are receiving, right? So that's why it's $3, the price before the tax here. Well, at question number 2, what is the price consumers pay after the tax? Well, we just have to go to the new equilibrium, right? The new equilibrium represents the price that consumers are paying. And so that is going to be at $4 because that's where our new supply curve intersects with our original demand curve. Well, number 3 is a little tricky, right? Well, here, what is the price the producers get after the tax? Well, we know it's a $2 tax here. So if consumers are paying $4, how we figure out the price that producers are receiving, in other words, the price that producers are technically going to sell their good at, is we look at this new equilibrium in red and we just go down to the old supply curve. So here, at this old supply curve, at this new equilibrium is $2. So the price producers get after the tax is $2 here, which then it represents the $2 excise tax the government placed in this company. Consumers are paying $4. The producers are getting $2. And so that $2 difference is the excise tax there. And so this leads us to question number 4. Well, what is the total tax revenue for the government before the tax? Well, here before the tax, the government wasn't involved, so they're actually getting no money whatsoever. But if we move to question number 5, well, after the government implements the excise tax, what is the total tax revenue? In other words, how much money is the government getting from this $2 excise tax? Well, here, right, we know consumers are paying $4 when they used to be paying $3. We know producers are getting $2 when they used to be getting $3. So here, this box right here, right, that I'm shading in red, represents, right, the area of tax revenue. Or in other words, this box represents how much money the government is getting, right, through this excise tax. And so to answer question number 5, we have to find out the area of this box right here, which is just length. Oops, what just happened there? Which is just, right, length times width. Well, here, right, we know it's going to be $2 because it's a $2 tax times the quantity. So at this new equilibrium, we know that this company is selling 80 units of the good. So the total tax revenue that the government receives after the implementation of this $2 excise tax is just 2 times 80, which is $160. All right, and so in class, right, or in there's these 2 guided practices here, right? So I would like you to do these by yourself. In the sort of comment section or the notes section of the Google Slides, there should be the answers if you wish to double check your work. And if you have any questions about it or you don't understand why something's the correct answer, feel free to send me an email, feel free to drop a comment, or set up a Google Meet with me, and I'll be more than happy to go over these 2 guided practices with you. So the last thing that we're going to talk about is something called tax incidence. And this is going to be pretty short. Basically, all a tax incident is telling us who is going to pay more of this excise tax, the producers or the consumers. And so the easy answer to this question is it depends, right? It solely depends on the elasticity of the demand and supply curves. And if you see, right, on this chart, on the left-hand side of the screen, it shows us the different elasticities of demand, and you can flip it and say the different elasticities of supply. So, if our demand curve is perfectly inelastic, then here, the consumers pay the entirety of the tax, right? If our demand curve is perfectly elastic, then producers pay the entirety of the tax here, right? And so there's two ways. You gotta just memorize this chart or just really quickly sketch it out if the demand or supply curve is inelastic, elastic, perfectly inelastic, perfectly elastic, and you can know sort of who's gonna pay more of the tax here. And so, just like with all the other sort of practice things, there are practice AP questions, right? So just take a look or watch out for the next, or a video on these practice AP questions on elasticity, right? Where I'll go more in depth and explain why the correct answers are correct. All right, so I hope you guys learned a lot, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.